Hi, I'm Gemma, and this is a chat with Gemma. See how that works? So, I want to talk about when a Christian hurts us. So, I had a bit of a situation like that recently. Now, there are Christians and then there are Christians, aren't there? So, there's, just ordinary run of the mill person who just goes to church on Sunday and tries to live a good life. And then there are other people who take it a step further and, they become a priest or a nun or a pastor or a vicar or whatever else you've got. And those people sort of, so to speak, have, tattooed on their foreheads Christian person. And so when somebody like in that category hurts us, we feel kind of extra put out, don't we? It's happened to me a few times in my life. And I suppose when I was a child at school and nuns were mean to me, I kind of just thought, I came from a large family and I was pretty used to people being mean to me, so it was just like water off a duck's back, really. But now as an adult, I kind of think, that's not very good. So I think if you are one of these people in these categories, or even if you are just somebody who perhaps as a Christian you talk about Jesus, you evangelise a little bit, you let it be known that you're a Christian, we do have to kind of remember ourselves, don't we? We are just like everybody else, and we are just going to behave like human beings, aren't we, from time to time? And so we have to kind of remember ourselves and make sure that we give a good, example of what it is to be a Christian. So, will I tell you my exciting story? I'm not sure if it's exciting or really boring. Anyway, I'll just assume that you said, "Oh yes, Gemma, please tell us." So I already felt kind of hurt and mistreated, because my car broke down. And the reason my car broke down is because I was basically ignored. So I took my car along for service and I told them, look, it's doing this thing. And so at the end of the day, I got my car back. And they said, the mechanics took it for a test drive and they couldn't fault it. And I was like, so interesting. And yet a 4-year-old child, if they could drive, would easily have been able to tell, but your mechanic couldn't. So I'm thinking, well, what do I do now? Like, I've taken it to the mechanics, The mechanics, that belong to the manufacturer of the car. Anyway, so off I go and I'm driving. I'm thinking, it's not my imagination. This thing's doing it. And the thought actually occurred to me, so, I hope this thing isn't something that would make the car break down. So anyway, next thing, the car broke down. And so 2 hours and 50 minutes later, my car is now in the driveway, and it had to be towed the next day because, of course, it broke down at a difficult time of the day and it couldn't be taken to the place because they'd locked up. So we had to tow it twice, and anyway, so they were pretty unenthusiastic about it. And if that was me and I treated somebody in that way and caused, because if they'd fixed the thing like I'd said in the first place, this wouldn't have happened. So instead of kissing my shoes and say, I'm so sorry, what can I give you $1 million? What can I do to make it up for you? instead of doing that, they said, look, we're really booked up at the moment. It's going to be days and days. And then later on they said, oh, and it's going to be an extra day on top of that. I would have thought, if I was in their shoes, that I would just put my car right at the very start of all of the jobs. Seems appropriate to me. Doesn't it seem that way to you? I would have thought. But no. So, yeah, real, genuine unenthusiasm about what they'd done to me, because absolutely their fault. So no suggestion of a courtesy car, or, as I say, giving me $1 million, anything. And so I am currently hiring a car for hundreds of dollars, and now I've just had to add another day on. And not even so much as oh, we're terribly sorry. So, how it is these days. Nobody wants to accept liability, do they? So that's the situation. And I felt rather like somebody who was being treated like a doormat. Not just a doormat, but something that somebody had scrubbed their boots on. Back and forth like that. And then this other person who's supposed to, have the tattooed on their forehead, I am a Christian, treated me in a way that was very, very un-Christian, I would say. Uncharitable, rejecting, and I was pretty shocked. And later on I thought, that's hurtful. As I say, I've grown up in a big family, and so I'm kind of used to, being spoken to in a certain way and treated badly and all of that, all of my life. But as an adult, I am a bit more aware of kind of standards that people should follow. We can't really use the word should, they say, because the world doesn't follow shoulds and woulds and oughts. So, yeah, it was pretty clear to me that I was being treated pretty shoddily by somebody in this category I've described. So I hope this hasn't happened to you, but unfortunately it's distinctly possible that it has, because we hear lots of stories, don't we, of people who should be the extra Christian person being quite the opposite and behaving pretty horribly. I've heard of some pastors being the most horrible husbands, or the most horrible fathers, or just horrible people to their, the people in their congregation. Other ones being just very sort of a bit kind of standoffish and a bit kind of, shooing people away and not really wanting to listen to some old lady's, life story and things like that, which, if you're in that position, you're meant to be like Christ. You're meant to show a little bit more patience than the next person. And I was actually thinking to myself, because I've got friends who are not Christians, they're atheists and, I don't know what, agnostics, and never decided what they might be. And I try to think of them in the same scenario and whether they would ever behave as this person did. And I thought, definitely not. They're actually quite what I would call Christian. They might object to that term, but that's what I would say, quite Christian in their behaviour. And I couldn't imagine them behaving in this way. So it is interesting, isn't it? And some of the most Christian people, again, if I can use that term, are absolutely not Christians. So anyway, sometimes when these things happen to us, we have to sort of examine our conscience, as they say. and think, oh, if I ever treated somebody like that myself, well, of course not, or maybe. Yeah, we can give people the brush off and the cold shoulder, or we use a tone of voice, or we see somebody coming and we kind of run the other way, or somebody starts to tell us their life story and we kind of cut them off, and all those sort of things. We're selfish, we're in a hurry, all those things. And so sometimes these things are a little bit of a jolt, and we can use them, I think, to say, okay, have I ever made anybody else feel that way? And the thing I've always thought, if perhaps I found out that I hurt somebody's feelings, is that I've been so surprised, because I just never would think of myself as being that important or having that much power to hurt somebody. And yet when you think about it, you think, oh, that really hurt me, that little thing that person did. And maybe it's not so big after all if you put on it in the scheme of life. But then again, when I've done something, I think of as being quite small to somebody else. Maybe they've gone away and thought about it for 2 weeks and been really hurt by it. So sometimes we can take these experiences, as I say, as a little bit of a, tap on the shoulder. Have I ever done anything like that? And we don't always remember to repent things if we don't acknowledge them. And so, we can sort of say, well, I'm sorry I did that, God, and please, heal that person of that thing that I did to them, or bless them in some way, or whatever. So, and at church, as you know, I'm a Catholic. At Mass, we say a prayer that's called, I don't know what it's called, because I'm old, the brain has to remember things. Something like the confession, or whatever it is. We say, I confess to Almighty God, and then we confess our thoughts, our words, things that we have done wrong, and the things that we have failed to do. So I think that's an interesting one to think about, isn't it? Because people are pretty good at, doing things that are charitable. I think most people, are happy to give money to a disaster relief, or to some, feed the poor and all of that. But there are times when we can fail to do something that really, as a Christian person, when we don't do it, it looks pretty bad. Again, a bad example of Christianity. And so sometimes we have to not just think about, oh, the wonderful things that I've done, all the money I've given away and whatever. We have to think about things that we should have done that we failed to do. We have to think about our thoughts as well. And might think, oh, why does God have to get into there? That's my business. But yeah, we do have to sort of think about our thoughts and try to, in my example, I have to forgive the person, think charitable thoughts towards her. So annoying, I know. And even our words, and we can have words, that can also include words when we're by ourselves, where I might say, oh, that person's a bit of a bitch. And you think, well, they're not around to hear me, it's okay. Even then, we've sort of got to recognise that God's listening. So, got to watch our thoughts, our words, and what we do and what we fail to do. But it turns out good in the end if we get to heaven. I hope you're well, and hope you haven't been hurt lately. And if you do, I hope this gives you some comfort maybe. And God bless you. Bye for now.